Good morning, first grade friends. I'm so happy to be hearing from so many of you. Today we're talking about writing. It's Wednesday, April 15th, 2020. So I'm going to write that at the top of my page. I'm going to write April, A-P-R-I-L, 15, which is a 1 in the ones place, or in the tens place, and a 5 in the ones place. 2020, 2020. That's how I'm going to keep track where I'm at in my journal. So we've talked about a couple of things about writing. We've talked about, let me move this so you can see. We've talked about what gets capitalized. Always the first letter of a sentence, always the letter I when it is by itself. Names of, proper names of people and places. And I think that's what we touched so far. The other thing that always gets capitalized is the names of states, cities. Like Louisville would be capitalized, and so would Kentucky. We talked about punctuation. The end of a sentence that always is a statement always gets a period. If you ask a question, it gets a question mark. If you're excited or yelling something, it gets an exclamation mark. As you're reading, look for punctuations and capitalizations in what you're reading. It will help you change your voice level, because if you're asking a question or the person in the story is asking a question, it might change the tone. If somebody is yelling like, wow, you're going to change the way you express it when you're reading. So writing and reading go together well. The things you learn in each of them are shared across both academic areas. So today, I have an idea about what I'm going to write about, but if you don't forget you have your heart map to help give you ideas. So here's what I'm going to write about today. I have my date up here. I'm going to remember to indent. That means, when you have that red line down the side, and then there's those 3 circles on the side of your notebook paper or your notebook. Indenting just means leave a little space before you start your paragraph. It was the first day of spring break. Okay, I just set it up. You know exactly what I'm going to be talking about in my paragraph. I'm going to be talking about spring break. We all just had spring break last week, where we were off of school for a week. Well, we were off for 3 weeks trying to figure out what we were going to do during this crazy time. But I'm going to be talking about a spring break. And so every sentence after this is all talking about spring break. It was the first day of spring break. We know that good writers always go back and reread what they wrote, so it makes sense. It was the first day of spring break. I was excited to sleep in. Uh-oh, I have a problem. Look at this. I didn't leave enough room between my 2 words. It looks like one sentence. Well, one of the things you should be thinking about when you're writing is leaving some space. And a good rule of thumb is 2 fingers together. Do you guys hear Molly barking? Hold on just a second. Let me go shut the door so she'll stop. Sorry about that. So remember to leave spaces between so that it doesn't all blend together. It was the first day of spring break. I was excited to sleep in. I made pancakes for breakfast. While I watched my favorite TV show. Maybe that's what you want to tell me about today. Maybe you want to tell me about your favorite TV show. I like cop shows. It was the first day of spring break. I was excited to sleep in. I made pancakes for breakfast while I watched my favorite TV show. During the day, I worked on a quilt, read my book, comma, and cleaned my flower bed. Period. It was the first day of spring break. I was excited to sleep in. I made pancakes for breakfast while I watched my favorite TV show. During the day, I worked on a quilt, read my book, and cleaned my flower bed. It was a great start to spring break. I'm going to use an exclamation mark because I was excited. Okay, let's talk about some of the things we've been looking at so far this week. The first letter of a sentence all gets capitalized. Check, did that. Proper nouns. Spring break. Nothing else. I, when it stands alone, here and here and here, all got capitalized. Remember to check that you leave spaces in between, because I didn't right here and it looks like one word and it should be two. You don't have to erase. You can just scribble it out and then move it over. It's okay if you don't have an eraser. Maybe you're writing in pen, because I know a lot of my kids were wanting to write in pen. So finger spaces. Then lastly, let's look at punctuation. I used a new punctuation today. I used an exclamation point because I was excited because it was the first day of spring break and I got to do all of the things I'd been wanting to do. Remember, if there's a statement, if you're just telling us something, it gets a period. And so I have several of those in here. So don't forget your punctuation. Okay, friends, I hope you have a great day. I'm looking forward to reading your writing. I'll see you tomorrow.